Nepal, nicknamed the Amazon of Asia. It's not only renowned for its incredible biodiversity, but also for being an open-minded and welcoming nation. From the distinguished snow-capped mountain peaks the abundance of flora, to the carefully protected fauna, and last but not least, the various ways of life its people practice. Join us as we discover and delve further into how the country of Nepal sustains its rich diversity regarding both its nature and its society. Nepal is located in the spectacular Himalayas in South Asia, a landlocked nation right between India and the Tibetan region of China, as well as closely neighbored by Bhutan and Bangladesh. Although it is a relatively small country compared to its two large and famous neighboring nations, with an area of only 147,516 square kilometers, it still possesses a very diverse geographical nature, as well as a number of World Heritage Sites that cannot be contested with. In addition to that, Nepal is home to more than 140 different ethnic groups, each containing even more various cultures, customs, and languages. Yet, despite hosting such a cultural melting pot, the people of Nepal are able to live together in harmony, mixing their lifestyles and beliefs at a whopping population of over 30 million. Even though the traditional monarchy of Nepal is no longer around, the people are still dedicated to preserving their natural and cultural sites that are filled with their history and lore. Since their government luckily also shares the same sentiment and passion as the people regarding the preservation to the physical embodiments of their country's history, they have thus supported and implemented a handful of programs committed to such goals over the years. In addition to that, many local and global non-profit organizations like ICOMOS and WWF have faithfully cooperated in researching the long-term conservation and even restoration of old World Heritage Sites and natural habitats. Speaking of Nepal's attractions, the country is brimmed with diverse landscapes to visit, from the frosty Himalayan mountains for adventuring hikers to the temperate but exotic forests and grasslands filled with lush greenery for nature lovers. To the many carefully maintained World Heritage Sites, as well as culture-filled cityscapes. Due to these aspects, there is an endless list of destinations for people to anticipate and visit. The capital city of Kathmandu is home to many UNESCO World Heritage Sites and temples, so we'll look more into these fascinating areas of interest. Fortunately, untainted by outside influences, Nepal's maintenance over its multitude of religious traditions and how they differ from one another is miraculous. Firstly, with over 80% of the population identifying as Hindu, Hinduism is not surprisingly the majority religion being practiced in Nepal. Its spiritual landscape is filled mostly with temples and sacred sites dedicated to the pantheon of Hindu gods. Such as the aforementioned Ganesh, and others such as Vishnu. Shiva, Lakshmi, Brahma, and Saraswati. A significant Hindu temple that is also listed as a UNESCO World Heritage Site located in Kathmandu is the Pashupatinath Temple, which is dedicated to worshipping the divine god Shiva, who is revered as the supreme being in one of Hinduism's major traditions, Shaivism. In another city in the Kathmandu Valley exists its very close counterpart to the bustling Kathmandu Durbar Square, Patan Durbar Square. Located in Lalitpur, Patan Durbar Square is a much less crowded and touristy version of Kathmandu's, though it still has the same assortment of beautifully constructed temples and other ancient monuments. In fact, it can be argued that such antiquities are maintained and restored at a better rate than the ones at Kathmandu, since Patan has suffered from far fewer earthquakes and destructive visitors. With the low traffic of tourists, Patan also feels more authentic with a minimal number of souvenir stalls, as well as being a popular meeting spot for the locals living in the area. Moving on from Durbar Squares, take a look at the Buddhanath Stupa, situated in the Kathmandu Valley. Renowned as one of the largest stupas in the world and a UNESCO World Heritage Site, it is said to entomb the bodily remains of Kassapa Buddha. Since it is located on an ancient trading route used by Tibetans to enter the Kathmandu Valley, it has a long history of receiving prayers and offerings from traveling Tibetan merchants, as they would also see it as a safe space to rest in between journeys. The Tibetan population around the Buddhanath increased especially after the 1959 Tibetan uprising, as refugees flooded and settled down in that area. The stupa itself is 36 meters tall and adorned with colorful prayer flags, intricate mandalas, and ancient Tibetan Buddhist iconography. With such an abundance of religious monuments, it is convenient to hold the many Hindu rituals and ceremonies. Processions like the ritual of Aarti or the devotional singing practice of Bhajan are integrated partially into the daily life of Nepal, as they can be easily performed both at home and in temples. Additionally, there's always a lot of enthusiasm and excitement when celebrating Hindu festivals, most notably Dashain, Holi, and Tihar, better known as Diwali and Deepavali. Now, outside the municipalities of Nepal, it is nearly impossible to avoid bringing up its most well-known mountain attraction, which is none other than the world's infamously tallest mountain, Mount Everest. Sitting on the border between Nepal and Tibet, the mountain has been known by multiple different local names, such as Sagarathma by the Nepali, meaning forehead in the sky, and Chomolungma by the Tibetans, meaning Mother Goddess of the World. In fact, it wasn't known as Mount Everest until the Great Trigonometrical Survey of India officially established it as the world's highest peak in 1856. This name was in honor of the British Surveyor General of India, Sir George Everest. Furthermore, there were no recorded attempts to reach the summit until the early 20th century, during which the explorers faced countless challenges like extreme climate conditions, high-altitude sickness, difficulty of navigation, and surviving the harsh environment in general. Finally, on May 29, 1953, two mountaineers successfully reached the top of the summit. Sherpa Nepali Tenzing Norgay and New Zealander Sir Edmund Hillary. These two were confirmed to be the first people ever to dominate Mount Everest, turning it into a landmark moment in mountaineering history. Ever since then, there have been non-stop expeditions to ascend the infamous mountain peak, especially as climbing technology developed and advanced throughout the years. Despite the cold climate of the Himalayas, there are several animals that have made the mountain range the Himalayan wild yak. This animal was once thought to be regionally extinct in Nepal by the 1970s, but was rediscovered there in 2014, in the Humla district in the Karnali province. Though still a rare sight, it is still possible to find this heavily built creature, as it boasts a bulky frame covered in layers of hair to resist the cold climate. It is considered to be one of the largest extant bovid species. Although the females are about 30% smaller and 2/3 lighter than the average male, they're still larger than domesticated yaks. Although they are typically herd animals, most male wild yaks are solitary with a few exceptions, while females tend to stick with their children while grazing. A herd can consist of up to several hundred yaks, though they are typically much smaller due to each individual's large size. As previously mentioned, wild yaks are mostly indifferent to humans and even prefer to stay away, only getting aggressive if there is a risk of harm to their calves. This is primarily because wild yaks only mate once yearly in the summer, with the mothers only giving birth to a singular calf every other year. In the lower altitudes of the Everest region of northeastern Nepal, many of the country's infamous but near-extinct animals are found living simply in their thick, furry coats. Build in comparison to its other big cat relatives, as they are smaller than most panthers, but much bigger than house cats. Even so, these felines share the same carnivorous diet as the rest of their large cat relatives, mainly preying on other nearby animals, such as the blue sheep and the musk. Sometimes they may even go for smaller mammals, like the Royal's pika or the Sikkim vole. Personality-wise, it mostly avoids humans, using its snowy white environment to its advantage and hiding away in plain sight. Reaching the age of maturity at 2 to 3 years old, snow leopards typically live for 15 to 18 years in the wild. However, they can live up to 25 years if in captivity. Unlike many large cats, snow leopards have a more consistent birth peak each year. If simply journeying through villages is not enough, and trekkers desire to catch more of a glimpse of the mountains, Golkyo Ri Viewpoint is the perfect place that overlooks certain areas of mountains such as Everest, Makalu, Lhotse, and Cho-Oyo is bound to have an incredible landscape view surrounding the Himalayan panorama that may end up inspiring future plans of going higher. Trekking to Everest Base Camp is a challenging, yet rewarding adventure, as the route takes trekkers through picturesque villages and alpine forests, where one may be able to also spot Buddhist monasteries and stunning glaciers along the way. In other parts of the mountainous Himalayan regions of Nepal, there live the Sherpas, an ethnic group indigenous to both Nepal and Tibet. Said to have descended from nomadic ancestors, the Sherpa community is very spiritually bound to the mountains, though they are very hospitable to visitors who are also interested. They are famous for their expertise and skills in mountaineering. Thus, they have also served as useful guides to explorers and adventurers in the past. Today, they continue to lend their expertise and mountaineering prowess to those who seek to hike the Himalayan mountains, mostly Mount Everest. If climbing Mount Everest is too extreme, the Sherpa village trek may still be a suitable activity to do. This allows trekkers to absorb the beautiful scenic routes while exploring the most welcoming Sherpa villages in the Khumbu region, such as Namche village and Kumjung village. Another popular viewpoint is the Gokyo-ri viewpoint in the aforementioned Khumbu region. If simply journeying through villages is not enough, and trekkers desire to catch more of a glimpse of the mountains, Gokyo-ri viewpoint is the perfect place that overlooks certain areas of mountains such as Everest, Makalu, Lhotse, and Cho-Oyo. Moreover, Gokyo's lakes and glaciers are also sights to behold. Other than the peaks, there is also lush vegetation along the trail regions at lower altitudes. The trek to this viewpoint is quite a lengthy one, taking about 14 days to reach the destination. Although it is shorter than the trek to the Mount Everest Base Camp, it has considerably more aesthetically appealing sights throughout the route, as well as cheaper and less crowded than the one to Mount Everest Base Camp. The trekkers take part in this adventure during either the spring or autumn seasons, as the skies are the clearest during them, enhancing the beauty of the landscapes. If the visitor is not much of a trekker and prefers indulging in Nepal's art scene, the Nepal Art Council provides a platform in Kathmandu for an excess of modern Nepalese artists to express their creativity, as well as showcase their diverse contemporary artworks. There are also many modern buildings being constructed with Nepal's vision of its future in mind. A great example is the Darahara Tower, which adds a touch of sophisticated variety to the city's skyline. Standing at 72 meters tall, the current Darahara Tower visitors see today is actually a replica of the original. The original was built in 1823 and became a popular tourist attraction. 2015 Nepal earthquake caused it to collapse and resulted in the demise of over 9,000 people.